Linux OTC.
Ah,
Welcome to episode
whoops.
14. We're your hosts. I'm Bill.
I'm Leo.
Yeah,
And no
no
Norbert.
Norbert.
He said he was sick. So we're going to talk trash about him
No,
the
we're going to be
entire
cordial.
show.
And Norbert couldn't be with us here this evening because he is shitting through a screen door. Uh, yep.
Yep.
Either that or he got a hold of some bad stuff. You know how it is.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It was a good trip, though.
It was, well,
Good trip.
you pay the price in the end. That's just how it
Yeah, you
is.
do.
Young men have to learn what old men have known for a long time.
We've learned our lessons. We were Norbert
Uh,
at a time.
oh God, that's why I don't have much hair left. All right, so yeah, Red Hat. I guess we'll get into it real quick and then we'll move on. How's that sound? Because it
That
just,
sounds good.
yeah, because it's just not going away. And to
The
be
horse is
honest,
dead,
we were
and we're
talking about
beating him.
this a little bit before the start of the recording because my opinion had. I don't know that my opinion has changed so much as it relates to uh, whether or not this is ethically good in the open source space and the free software space. I think my opinion has sort of changed somewhat just based on, well, I think you probably would be better off adjusting your expectations of somebody like Red Hat. And they are a
Yeah.
company now, regardless of the place that they've occupied in the past. Where they are now is a company that needs to make a profit, and they rely on open source technologies, and indeed they uh,
But,
commit a lot of
well,
open source
the profit
technologies.
thing, they were profitable already.
Yeah,
They were currently, even before the IBM acquisition, they were
well, that's
profitable.
the point, isn't it? Now they've got to be profitable for them and IBM.
Right. They have to be more profitable.
Yeah,
It's the attack of, profits over year
they
over
got to
year.
be
They have to
old
be
money
better.
profitable. They got to be thinking the long game now
Yeah.
because IBM has been around longer than computers. I,
Well, they assure us, Red Hat assures the community that it was not an IBM. This was all a Red Hat thing. From top to bottom, the decision was Red Hat.
so saith
So
the people from IBM that moved over to Red Hat,
maybe,
right? You know,
maybe, I don't
I
know.
mean, you can say that, yeah, no, this wasn't an IBM decision, but this is this is what IBM would have done. So there you go. You know,
True.
but I choose not to hate them for it because they're doing what everybody else is doing. Just it just comes across differently because they're open source from top to bottom. Or,
Yeah.
well, they've been a part of the open source space for a long time, but they will continue to contribute to all of these projects that we honestly we wouldn't be where we're at right now no matter what distro you're using if it wasn't
Mm.
for Red Hat with projects like Pulse Audio and iteratively, um, what's the new one, Pipewire,
And Wayland
Wayland,
and
crying out loud.
HDR.
Apparently we need Wayland. um,
Well, wait, why
HDR.
you say it like that? Hold on. What do you mean? What do you mean we need Wayland?
Well, because I'm not convinced yet. I, I'm told that it's better, but I don't see really how it's better. I mean,
Well, it's not
I'm
better
not.
for you yet.
When I try to run it and do the things I need to do, I have to make concessions. For a lot of things that just have worked a certain way for a very long
Mm.
time, and then when you try to make those things work under Wayland, you have to add 2 or 3 steps to the process. Now I understand,
Mm.
that's part of moving forward, is finding ways of overcoming these problems. But it's not like we're addressing these problems and then moving on to the next thing. We're trying to do a whole bunch of little things at the same time.
Yeah.
And, Wayland has been crawling towards successful adoption on the Linux desktop for so long. And then
Yeah.
you've got uh, distribution developers like Clem that is just kind of sitting back, I have to assume, and waiting for this to become something that actually works in a way that Linux Mint users would expect it to work.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
Debian 12.
mm,
Is that Wayland by default?
yeah, well, it would have to be if it's GNOME, but um, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah,
I
'cause
think it is because I installed it
I'm
on a
running it in
KB.
like 4 different places, but I don't know. I didn't actually check.
I'm fairly
Hold on, now I
certain it
gotta.
is. I don't know about the KDE version, but that's really not their flagship version anyway. I know Arch. If you install KDE on Arch, you're running it by
Yeah.
default. If you install GNOME on Arch, you're running it by default. That should come as no surprise to anybody. But yeah, I want to say at least the GNOME version,
Right. I think it is. Right?
and Ubuntu is no doubt Wayland first. You know,
Right, right.
so enough of the problems have been overcome. But are we all the way there yet? Does it take, sometimes I think to get these things to work right, it takes a little bit of a technical mind, maybe not ready for mainstream all the way yet, but it's starting to feel like it never would have been ready for mainstream unless they started putting people in front of it. And
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with Pulse Audio though.
yeah,
I mean, it didn't work for absolutely everybody before Debian. I mean, and I keep bringing up Debian because it tends to be a slower distro. Um, Used it, so it seems to be that's when things are just start to be fine. I don't know because people still complain about Pulse Audio, so it's never going to be perfect.
no, I mean, it's still wonky. I still have weird things that happen sometimes. Um, and then, I don't know, some of the tooling around it is kind of archaic. But I guess it gets the job done a lot better nowadays than it used to. I mean, how many times a day did we used to have to execute Pulse Audio Tech K? Just to.
I never really did. I did it. I do that one time when I had to force the frequency. That's pretty much it. Like because it was 44,100 or 48,000, right,
Oh,
hertz, and then like sometimes during my recording sessions, like it would crash, and it would fail down to the other one, but it would make it sound like I got slowed down because I mean technically I did the rate slowed down, so yeah, I would make that change, force it to 44,100 all the time, and then it would be fine. But I would have to issue Pulse Audio K to make that change without having to reboot.
I think the majority of times I had to do it were probably when I was switching from just regular speakers to something running off the HDMI
Oh
directly
wow,
to
yeah,
a TV or something like that.
man, never really had an issue with that.
And I don't know, that could have been just that hardware. You never know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many edge cases, and I mean, there's only a finite amount of manpower to be able to handle all that stuff. But anyway, back to Red Hat, right? That's where they come in. That's why they do all the heavy lifting, and that's why
Yeah.
it is okay that they did what they did,
I
right?
don't see again. I don't know that it's
But that's what
okay,
that. Listen,
but
that's what you're saying, Bill. You're
I'm
saying
saying
you're
that
fully behind the decision.
I'm nothing if not pragmatic. I think that it's just not going to do any good. It's also not going to do any good to try to come up with crazy ways of trying to circumvent, any kind of limitations they put in place.
Well, that's where Rocky's at, right?
Yeah,
That's what they have come out and
that's what
said they're
they've
gonna do.
said.
That's what their CIQ live stream was about. That they are gonna forge ahead. They're doing all they can to be one-to-one, bug-for-bug compatible with Red Hat. Um, and I think it's going to be a game of cat and mouse because they're out here uh, pulling sources from like cloud instances and things like that. So
I can see how that's technically perfectly fine, and they might get away with it for a while. Um, at what point, though, is it just not worth being dodgy like that and
Oh, hold
just
on, hold on. Now you said no. It's fighting words. That's dodgy.
in the enterprise space, I would say. So yeah.
Ah, okay, okay. I
I
can
mean,
see
if
that.
somebody was building a distro like that, just, making it available on DistroWatch or something like that, then that's one thing. But these are people that are claiming to have the bug for bug compatible operating system of RHEL,
Yeah.
which has a reputation for being reliable in the enterprise space. Now, what could happen is they start building this from some shaky way of taking the universal base image and then extracting what you need from that. And when things start to get a little bit bumpy, then I could see how that could hurt, or it could be perceived as hurting Red Hat's reputation. And I can see how Red Hat could probably come in because everything that's done, all you have to do is say that this is a copy of Red Hat. I mean, that's their whole shtick. This is a copy of Red Hat. Well, then it's Red Hat. It doesn't matter what the little pictures are at the corner of the screen. This is everybody knows this is Red Hat for free. So if something goes wrong with this, it must mean that there's something wrong with Red Hat.
Well,
And
that's when you buy support from Rocky, right? That's their whole thing.
that's
Is not just that they're bug for bug, but then you buy the support from Rocky.
which is considerably cheaper than RHEL.
Well, and
And
I just want to highlight what you just said. It's considerably cheaper.
it is.
So for not big enterprises without deep pockets, it's hard to afford sometimes.
So why not, if we're going to argue at the top of our lungs that this is not open source, that you are not being a good steward of the free software ecosystem, why not use CentOS Stream? That way you are contributing back to that open source ecosystem.
Well, it's not the same.
It's not, but
I
can
think
it work?
that's it probably could, but
I d-
it's not the same. Like if you wanted a vanilla ice cream cone and you got a chocolate ice cream cone, I mean, you'd eat it maybe if you like chocolate, but just because they're both ice cream cones doesn't make it the same. So
I would probably adjust your analogy a little bit to
they're both ice cream. They're
they're
both
both
cold.
ice
They
cream,
both go
and
down.
they're
It's a
both
lot of sugar in
vanilla.
both.
They're both vanilla. You're just paying a lot more for one of them.
Yeah, the
I
vanilla
mean,
happened to be 4 times as much.
but I mean that's what I'm getting at is if we are criticizing people for not being good stewards of open source, then why are we not using the software that's doing the contribution then? This is what they've brought. This is what RHEL themselves, and indeed RHEL might even come up with more tiers to their free offering, just to make up for some of this, depending
Well,
on.
I think I don't know if it was Rocky or Alma. They weren't forthcoming, or Oracle for that matter. I don't know, but Red Hat did, or at least some of the employees of Red Hat did come out and say there are contributions. Alma, Rocky, Oracle, I don't know which mix or all, were contributing to CentOS Stream to fix things upstream, but it wasn't enough, and therefore they went ahead with the decision. So it's not that they weren't contributing; they just weren't contributing enough to justify their existence. And I have to believe it's just Oracle because I really this is just me spitballing, but I feel like Oracle's really the only company out there making cash hand over fist with this with the old way, with just the CentOS GitHub thing being out there and being able to re-roll your own distro based on it.
Yeah,
I can't imagine Alma and Rocky are just rolling in it. So
yeah.
I don't think
Well,
it was
they
them
were.
or Springdale, and nobody even knows Springdale's name. So that's how I know Springdale doesn't make a whole lot of money.
They kind of came out of nowhere when the drama stirred up, and it
Who, Springdale?
all of them really,
No, they
Alma
all
and
been
Rocky. and
Oh.
I mean, the developers didn't,
Oh,
but
right.
but the brands kinda spun up out of nowhere when as soon as Red Hat, but that's the way it works. As soon as Red Hat announced that we're changing CentOS to basically a completely different, I say it's a completely different thing. I've installed it right next to RHEL, and I'll be damned if I can tell the difference between the 2 of them, except the way they look, and maybe CentOS has got slightly newer stuff in it. I don't know. I
Well,
just does
that's
not.
the difference, right? It's slightly newer, so you
Ah,
can't
gosh, it's not
guarantee binary
Fedora though.
compatibility between CentOS and Red Hat or RHEL 9.2 is what it currently is, right?
Yeah,
Like
I wish
that's the
somebody would come out with a real example of why that is so important. Give me an example of a piece of software that just will not run unless it is compiled against a version of whatever the heck on
janky
RHEL.
proprietary stuff, man, requires very specific libraries in very specific forms, and without them, they just don't work.
So let's worry about the proprietary stuff and get out our pitchforks so that those people can have it easy.
I mean, you say that, but Linux runs the internet, man. And whether it's on
Yeah.
proprietary stuff or not, it doesn't really matter. Linux sits on top of the heap because of the fact that you can do that.
So you are unshakable in your opinion that this was wrong from top to bottom.
I don't
That
think it was
re-
wrong from top to bottom. I think
well,
Red Hat's fine to do what they did. I think they're well within their rights. I mean, even the SFC has come out and said there's nothing extremely tangible that we can poke at here,
mhm.
but there also have not been court cases because the only person with the pockets deep enough to do it is Oracle. So, I mean, a little part of me was like, hopefully Oracle does something just to test it, just to see is it or is it not legal under the GPL. Those things have not been tested in court, so we don't fully for sure know. We think they are, because Red Hat says they are, and no one has challenged them on it.
I thought maybe it would I thought maybe Oracle forgot that they had a Linux distro and this reminded them, "Oh yeah,
No.
we've got a distro. What's it based on?"
Well, as soon as Red Hat made those changes, Oracle was like, "Do we have a Linux distro?"
Yeah, that's what I mean. This will come up. "Oh
Yeah,
no, we're gonna have to do work now? No, that ain't gonna work."
yeah. I just think, man, like doing something for 20 years and in the middle of a cycle, they did it again. The CentOS move was already bad enough, right? Changing it, killing CentOS 8 and then moving everything to CentOS Stream in the middle of a cycle. That was just not cool.
That was
Could
bad,
they
and the
can they do
communication.
that? Sure. Are they well within their rights to do that? Of course they are. They own it all. So they do what they want. But the just it was not cool just simply because people have already migrated out. If it was within the first couple of weeks of it being released, I get that. But man, it had been out for almost a year, right? Something like that.
Mhm.
And, so people have migrated to it. Then they pull out the rug, and then people have to figure out what to do, right? Go back to 7, move to Ubuntu, Debian, just go to Stream, which is very unknown at the time. Is it the same? Is it not the same? Is it binary compatible? I don't know. So, they had real tough decisions to make at the time. And then a year later, they do something extremely similar in the middle of a cycle, right? Are they well within their rights to do so? Of course they are, because they own it all and they can do what they'd like. But man, if it's not two gut punches to, I mean, the
They
community.
must have decided that what goodwill they'll lose was less of a sacrifice
Oh
than
yeah.
what they could stand to lose in terms of money in that. And this is just one more story that reminds us of the difficulties of making money in open source. You
Yeah,
know,
and
and
and that's what it was. It was a decision to make more money. It was calculated. They knew at least roughly how big the Alma and Rocky communities are, how much Oracle hurts them. And I suppose in a couple of quarters we're going to figure out just how much money they did make and where things are going to land. Because right now we're still choppy waters because Alma Linux has decided they're no longer going to be one-to-one binary compatible with RHEL. They're going to be best effort, and that's cool. And Rocky has said that they want one-to-one binary compatibility. They want that bug for bug compatibility. But OpenSUSE decided they were going to fork RHEL, and they went and stood over in Rocky's corner, and they brought $10 million with them. And by the way, they said 10 million or more. So 10 million is the absolute bare minimum amount of money they're willing to throw into the enterprise space to be able to make a clone that will compete against Red Hat. So before they had SUSE out there doing their thing, right? They were close, but they weren't exactly compatible with RHEL, right? They were doing their own thing. And then they had Oracle to worry about, which was compatible, right? So they had one real rival in the space. Now they have two. So I
So if it
frenemies?
costs
I
$10
don't know.
million to copy somebody else's work, how much would it cost just to?
No, it costs no money besides the development time to stitch it all together, to put that together. This is $10 million of future development to make sure that it doesn't go away.
Mm.
So,
I'm
I
just
mean,
wondering how much it would cost to come up with something else that you could offer the marketplace.
yeah, but
And
coming up with something else is not the point. Like, we have Debian. If you want something else, if you want something stable, if you want something that'll last you 10 years and you don't have to jump through hoops and subscribe to get that, we already have it. We already have something else.
mhm.
But a lot of people in the enterprise space are not looking for something else, or they'd already be on Debian or on SUSE, SLES, whatever it is. They would be there already. They're looking for the enterprise distro, which, like it or not, is RHEL. They're looking for RHEL, and they're not looking to pay RHEL prices. So that's the conundrum. And RHEL has said, or Red Hat has said, uh, those guys, in so many words, I suppose, those people that are looking for cheap RHEL are not worth our time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm, hmm,
I
hmm.
mean, that's
But it's
big
worth SUSE's
business.
time.
Yeah. Well, they're European, aren't they? They've got a different way of seeing the world. It's not scorched earth and
Well,
make
yeah,
as
but
much as
Rocky
you
and Alma
can.
weren't fully any country, were they? I think Kurtzer is American, but
I'm
I don't
saying
know.
from
I
the
don't know.
perspective of
I
a
think
company like RHEL from IBM Red Hat, you know, they
I think the open source ideology and the free trade beyond what the GPL requires of you. I think that's my big point of contention, right? Like, you can do the absolute bare minimum and let people argue about whether or not it's over the line or not. You can do that. And that is legal. But what is legal is not always what is right. And that's really my only issue with it. Yes, they can legally pull the rug out from CentOS 8 and go to stream. They can legally do that. Is it cool? No. They can legally shut off the faucet that allows Alma and Rocky and Oracle and whatever other clone allows them to exist. They can legally do that. Is it cool? No. So legality and is it cool, man, don't always line up.
well, it seems like Fedora has learned a lesson from all this because they've announced recently that they want to work on or come up with a framework for ethical. How did they word it? Ethical
Telemetry.
telemetry. Ethical
But before we
telemetry.
get into it, because I just think it's funny, I know that the guys that propose the telemetry thing are not in the same offices all of the time with the guys that are making the decision about what to do with the CentOS GitHub repository,
Yeah,
right?
right.
I
Yeah.
know they're not in the same rooms all the time. But man, it looks like if you're going to be a Red Hat property, everybody's going to trip all over themselves all at the same time. Just you might as well just shove it all into 1 month. That way all of the hate comes in the next month, and then hopefully after that you're beyond it. But
I think
whoo wee, boy.
Fedora is a little bit more uniquely placed though, because I mean they're a little bit closer to the community that we're a part of though. They've got their ear. They got people on the podcast. They got people on
Sure.
r/Linux and whatnot. And
Well, because I think a lot of the real community, I think a lot of the homegrown community lives in Fedora,
yeah,
and a lot of the corporate community lives in CentOS Stream.
yes,
So there's a stark difference, which is why you see that you don't see anybody waving the CentOS Stream flag. Really, that's not a Red Hat employee going around a podcast and saying things about CentOS, right? It seems to me to be damage control or trying to temper some of the flaring opinions that are happening out there, right? That's really all that happens with CentOS. But with Fedora, you see people all the time like that are part of the community, like that are working towards something in Fedora, in the communities, on the podcasts, in the discords, all the time. The communities are starkly different.
yeah.
So you're gonna see you're gonna see
And
that
their
from
method of communication
Fedora.
is completely different. Instead of making a decision and making it final and then chucking that over the wall at the community and saying, this is what's going to happen. Fedora, they will just announce that, hey, we are thinking about looking for a way to make some kind of framework for ethical telemetry. We don't
See, this
even
is gonna
know.
get me in trouble though.
But I mean, they start more. It's more grassroots with Fedora. They can
Yeah,
start the conversation before they've written a single line of code. They start the conversation, and then got they got all the time in the world to make decisions, change decisions, and even reverse this thing completely if they needed to.
yeah,
And which I think is a puts Fedora in a unique category
yeah.
because
Because
if
everything comes through FESCO. Everything.
yeah.
The Fedora, I forget what it stands for. It's the Fedora Engineering Steering Committee, um, and that is everybody's elected. Like, and it feels very Debian in that way
Hmm.
because everybody's elected, and when there's somebody that just does not clash with, or that clashes with the community, I mean, don't elect them again, right? But yeah, it feels a whole lot more. Is it the same as Debian? No, but it feels a whole lot more like that kind of community-driven kind of thing. But here's what's going to get me in trouble. Uh, I agree with it.
I do too.
The telemetry thing, dude. Opt out, 100%. Do it.
Hmm.
Just do it. They won't, and I think it was good to listen to the community, but man, the amount of information anonymized, right? Like
Yeah.
it was not even complete. So there was still time to ensure that everybody that had concerns about opt out were, I don't know, satisfied at least a little. No one's going to be cool with opt out. Okay, well, I say no one. 16%. Last I checked, people were very cool. I'm in that 16%, I guess. We're very cool with opt out. Um, but the rest, and that's a huge amount of people that were not cool with opt out. Um, but man, the amount of information that you could have had that could have been anonymized, that could have been, no personal identifying information in it.
I'll give them
Uh,
anything they ask for.
oh yeah, yeah,
True.
yeah.
I'll
Well, I
crank it all
think
the way up.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would too. I think that was really the point of contention there was that I think a lot of the people were cool with giving Fedora all the information. They just didn't want it to be opt out. They wanted it to be opt in, right? So, um, but man, you're gonna miss so much,
You're gonna miss.
and you're only
Gonna
getting a
miss most.
slice. Yeah. What the reason I think it should just be opt out is that so much of the pie you're getting such a small sliver of the pie by having it opt in because people fly through the installation
Yeah.
think next, whatever. I don't care what next. Um, you're missing so many people, so many use cases, so many things you could be fixing by essentially not listening to those people because they're never going to write a bug report. The people that are nexting through, they don't got time for that. So, um, yeah, I mean, you got to scoop that up somehow, and doing that in the most absolute anonymous way possible is great. Is It should be encouraged. I think we should be there because Linux could be in a slightly better place if we did.
Yeah, I want to see Fedora do this. I want to see him do it well, and then I want to see him do it in a way that builds something that can be used anywhere. Because I think you're going to get a way different data set from Fedora than you would with like Ubuntu or Mint or whatever. And we need
Yeah,
all of that data to
yeah.
know where to focus resources and things like that. Like I said, I'll give them anything about anything that they want. And you don't have to anonymize that much for it. I mean, I go on a podcast talk about things I use
Well, yeah, but
and this stuff, you know.
mm,
So
yeah, but this is stuff I'm willingly talking about, right? Like,
yeah, right.
anonymize it, please. You're going further than I
Okay, I'll
am.
tell you what.
Anonymize it,
Just
please.
anonymize the stuff I use LibreWolf for. There you go. Let's just anonymize that.
Oh man.
And
Uh,
whenever I'm running Mozilla VPN, let's just anonymize that.
yeah.
But
I
beyond
thought
that,
I thought one of the suggestions was cool, and it hadn't occurred to me um, when I was reading through the Fedora proposal um, that you don't do either. The choice is neither yet. You have to make a choice, but by default, it's neither. So if you think about right, the radio buttons, opt in, opt out. Neither radio button is selected. You have to select one before you can move on. I
yeah,
think that's probably the best split the difference kind of way to do it, man.
yeah,
Um,
seems like it
People
should have
like
been
you
that
and
way
me.
from the beginning.
Well, yeah, well, sure, but it hadn't occurred to the Fedora folks either because it wasn't even a choice. So I'm gonna guess that it hadn't occurred to a whole lot of people. And you know the example? This may be why it hadn't occurred to anybody. Do you know what example was used to originally bring that point up?
The only thing I can think of is like popularity contest because that you have to give an answer with that.
People were mad about that too. It was an Apple iOS screenshot. And I think that says a lot about Apple, but it also says a lot about Fedora and me and everybody else that it never even occurred to us that not making a decision might be the best decision and forcing people, you have to choose one to move on, is the right way to go. I think that's so opt out of, I mean, do it. But if you're not going to do it, then this is it. This
Yeah,
is the one. Just don't make an explicit choice for anybody and force them to opt in or opt out. It's the best
gosh, it
split
just seems
difference you're going to
obvious,
get.
doesn't it?
I know, right? And I
Yeah,
thought the same exact thing. Like, why do you have to fill in a radio button for somebody in the first place? You don't. I think it just we are conditioned as I honestly from people uh that come from proprietary software, man. I think a lot of those decisions are already made for you.
yeah.
So maybe that's it. Maybe it just didn't occur to us because it's not normal.
Well, fundamentally,
But it is in
the whole way the whole next thing works is the reason it works that way is because there is a choice selected by default, and you just have to accept that choice.
right, exactly. That's
And
what I mean. Yeah.
that's
We're just used to it. So it never occurred to us that not making a choice was an option. Mm,
mm,
interesting. But I hope them all the best, man. Seriously. I think telemetry is really the only way that you're going to get the opinion of the majority of people. Because think about it, right? How many of the thousands, if not millions, of Fedora users? Okay, millions might be a stretch, but thousands of Fedora users are actively on the forum,
mm.
actively submit bug reports.
That's probably pretty slim.
are actively on the mailing list, right? Like, you get such a slim piece of the pie when you don't scrape up the telemetry, man. And it's unfortunate for those people for the big piece of the pie, right? It's unfortunate for them because a lot of the stuff just never makes it to the steering committee's ears to make the change.
It's probably fair to say that there's more Fedora users contributing than there would be something like Ubuntu or I don't know, something a little bit more easy and user friendly. You
I
probably
don't
have
know. I
more
feel like
people.
Ubuntu. Well, hold on. You're saying Fedora is easy and friendly?
No, I'm saying that Fedora, the people that use Fedora are probably more likely to be participating in forums and filing bug
Oh,
reports
I see.
than
Yeah,
people that are using something like Ubuntu. Or
maybe.
I think people using Ubuntu, they do enough to go looking for solutions to problems, but that's probably the because when I go looking for solutions to problems, um, for Ubuntu based distributions, it's almost always in a forum somewhere where somebody was looking for a solution and then one person was coming up with solutions for dozens of other people.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, being that, I mean, we kind of expect Fedora users to be at least on an intermediate level in terms of their technical chops with Linux. If
I
they're
guess so, but I don't know that that makes them more likely to file a bug report though, or to log in with an account to the forum.
Yeah, I
I don't know.
wonder.
Yeah, oh, because I'm not that kind of person, right? Like I'll just go to Reddit, like I'll post my question there.
Well, I mean, that's
Um,
where most of your search results are going to end up anyway, at least for the time
well,
being.
yeah, I was gonna say,
That
right? I
might
was
it might start to get a little
looking.
diluted here pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's where Lemmy comes in, man, dude.
Yeah,
Lemmy is already pretty decent, I think.
I've
It's got a lot
given
of
that a
technical
look.
folks.
And yeah, and the cool thing about something like Lemmy is your information on there is going to be up to date, more than
Oh, right.
likely.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Well, yeah, you're
because
missing the what, the 10 years of Reddit?
right.
Oh, actually, no, it's longer than that. It's like 15 something years maybe,
Hmm.
of Reddit backlog. But man, I have to wonder just how long they are gonna find it profitable to keep that going because it wasn't profitable in the first place, apparently, because they're making all these changes. Um, okay. I mean, five
Just
years, the first 5 years, they're just gonna hack it off. I don't know.
I think it depends on how much expectation you have for profit. I mean, the some of these companies are
These are
just
gonna be
wanting.
publicly traded companies, man. That's priority one.
Yeah.
IBM, Red Hat, publicly traded. Priority one. Red Hat will be publicly traded. Priority one. Twitter is private now, but yet still kind of swirling.
Downhill.
Yeah, somebody on Lemmy, speaking of Lemmy, um, said that, they're kind of happy that Threads came out, and they're kind of happy that Threads is eating Twitter's lunch because Twitter is the worst of two evils. And I had to comment back, like, man, what a world we live in where you got Meta and you got Twitter, and you're saying Twitter is the worst of
Who
the
saw
two.
that coming?
What a world, man. Wow. And I don't necessarily fully agree there, but I mean, man, there are slices of Twitter that do not belong anywhere.
The people that I know, of course, Twitter is not as popular in the Midwest as it is in some other places, just for cultural reasons and that.
Well, I
But
feel like the coasts are more chronically online. I
yeah,
just happen to be also chronically online, and I don't live on either coast.
well, the people that do use Twitter that I'm aware of, they've quit. They've quit for technical reasons. They've quit because it's become less reliable that they'll even be able to get a tweet out there. And
Oh, it's up down. There's all kinds of
yeah,
limits on it now. Yeah, the API thing. I mean, they did the API thing first, And then everybody else started, oh, wait, look, so Twitter didn't die after they made those changes? Well, let's make them too. And then Reddit followed along, right? Um, but yeah, I don't know.
It,
600 posts, man. That's all you could see for a little while. And then you were like, all right,
well,
we'd
that's more
like
than
to
enough
show
for
you
me.
ads, but we won't. So, the way that we make money, we're just not going to do that. Why would we? Oh, wait. Yeah. And then the restriction was removed because you can't see ads, can't make money. Mm-mm-mm. That's why
Ah,
I do
God.
Twitter on the web. You put uBlock Origin on there, and you still don't get no ads.
Or
That's the
run it
secret.
behind Pi-hole. I wonder. I've never actually tried to run Twitter behind Pi-hole. I wonder if it would just block the whole thing. You
No,
wouldn't even
it
be able to
it
see it.
it works for most of the ads. Anything that's not served from Twitter itself will get blocked, but anything that comes from a Twitter domain won't, because Pi-hole won't block that.
Hmm.
But that's where uBlock Origin comes in. Not only does it remove the ad, it removes the space for the ad, so it's a seamless experience. So it's really nice. And same with Brave on mobile, Firefox on mobile. If you can get the uBlock Origin add-on in there,
Yeah, I've
you
got
can
that,
log
and
into
it
these
works
places
really
and
well.
yeah, you can log into these places and have no ads. It's kind of nice.
I've actually replaced a couple of news apps with the Firefox running uBlock Origin, and
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
news ads, I could run it through Pi-hole, through WireGuard or whatever, and block the ads, but you still have the space, and you've got this awkward
Yeah.
garbage, in its place, which I don't know that that's any better. Um,
At least you don't see an ad. I don't know.
yeah, right. Um, but on the other hand, really, a lot of those apps are just wrappers for the websites themselves, and
Oh,
maybe a
right.
little bit
Yeah.
better notification integration, but
Yeah,
I don't
that's
use
the
any
one
of
thing
those
that I do
anyway.
miss on mobile is notifications. I don't know when people talk to me, so you just gotta wait for me to get back on the web.
Mm, like the old
Sorry.
days,
Yeah,
like
really, really. Before push notifications were ever a thing. Yeah,
back when I had to fire up the 56K modem and get on America Online, and
you better believe
you
it.
got mail.
I still have 1,000 hours. They keep
They're
sending me the
st-
discs, man.
they're still on AOL 10.0.
You better
You can
believe it,
still download the software. You can still run it on
dude. AOL's
basically.
still posting profit,
Yeah.
like year over year profit. What? Why? And it's because people that learned how to use the internet in the 90s are still around and still use the internet in the exact same way they learned in the 90s. So they're still paying probably $15 a month. That's what it ended up being before, like, the regular internet became
Well, you
ubiquitous. I
still
guess
got to
before you had
have
more options.
regular internet, but this is just kind of a gated garden
Right.
that
Right.
sits on top of it, so it doesn't make any sense to me.
And
I re-
that's what's so surprising that AOL is still around, because they don't provide anything other than a familiar interface. That's all they provide now. So weird.
I wonder about the other ones, the esoteric ones like Net
Net
Zero
zero.
and
I knew you were gonna
Juno.
say it. Yeah.
Yeah, what was the other one?
Man, there was back in the day, the free tier of Net Zero. Nothing actually happened at the very beginning, but eventually they got to the point where they started serving up ads, and it was basically this little application that had to live on your screen
Yeah,
that cycled through ads all the time, right? And it was always on top. You couldn't whatever. But there were hacks for it. There
yes.
were modifications where you could, at the very least, you could push it behind stuff, and there were other modifications that would just straight up kill the app but leave the internet connection running. So yeah, you better believe I have a very strong aversion to ads because of the way that I was introduced to ads in the first place. And I get it, man. They gotta eat, but man, we gotta find a different way than ads. I think that the internet's moving that way. The internet is moving to a like ad free, because the API thing, right? Like they're charging a lot of money, so they're trying to make money without ads. I don't know. I don't know.
Takes a
Maybe ads will never
fundamental
go away.
shift in just the way people use the technology, I think. Um, but I think you're right. I think we are starting to. Well, they were kind of forced into it, I think, because more and more people were starting to use ad blockers, and it was easier to get them up and running. Uh, and so companies, I imagine, had to take a good long look at that and think, well, we're not getting the kind of data that we probably once did. Maybe we can come up with something different.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's ads. I hate them.
Yeah.
I don't
We
mind the regular ones, man. The ones that sit off to the side that don't bother you, that don't move. Those are fine.
Yeah, they're fine.
But
Just stay right there
but
and look pretty. Uh,
yeah, I'll scroll right
that
past
net
you.
zero thing.
But you'll get the impression, and maybe you'll get a penny off of that.
There
I
you
hope you do.
go.
But if that ad moves, I'm killing it.
That net zero thing, you would get like what, a half an hour a day of free internet or something like that. There was a time limit, but it was very, very basic, and it went off the system clock. And I had a script.
Oh,
I had me a script that would like reset the system clock. I mean, it was jank, but I mean, it kept me online.
that's
And
cool. And see, it's a good thing that back in the day, HTTPS wasn't ubiquitous, right?
yeah,
Because then that would have broken those websites.
yes. But I was
Your
using
clock is weird. No.
stuff like the Mozilla browser and stuff like that in those days. And
Yeah, back
the
when it was called Phoenix, you better believe I jumped on that. Oh yeah.
trying to remember the timeline because Mozilla had like a browser, uh, chat client, and email client put together. It's been
Hmm.
rebranded into a project called Sea
Yeah, they were
Monkey
broken
now.
out. Yeah.
Um, but I remember it just being called Mozilla, and it had the little dinosaur symbol
Yep. If
on
I
it.
remember, it was Netscape Navigator,
Yeah,
then it was Phoenix, then it was Mozilla, then it was Firefox.
and
If I remember correctly.
I think that was when they started Mozilla is when they started the tabbed browsing, and that was somewhere around there. It was just single window browsing up to that point, and I
Hmm.
remember thinking, my God, it's kind of a game changer. I mean, it was not as
What an
impactful.
innovation.
Yeah. Oh gosh, all these websites in one window, whereas before I had my that bottom pane on my Windows XP, the green, or what color was that? Gray, or no, blue. It was blue,
Yeah, the
just
the
lined up
the
from end
bar
to end.
itself was blue, and
Yeah,
then the start button itself was green.
I
Yeah.
remember thinking, man, that's pretty.
But you could make it silver. If
Yeah,
you had, I don't think it was default. I think you had to actually buy something extra for the like before Service Pack 2 or something. You had to buy something extra to get the other ones because there was like a crystal version of the blue and green one. So it was nice and Web 2.0 and all that. And then there was a silver one. That one may have been shipped, but the crystal one definitely wasn't. I think that one came with you could get like Windows XP Plus. I think they still shipped Plus back in the day on XP,
Windows
or you
XP
could get the
Pro.
yeah. Well, that was I think it was a Media Center thing. So they had Windows XP Media Center came with a remote and everything.
Oh God, Media
Um,
Center. I remember
yeah,
trying to run that, and my computer just folded up like a cheap tent. I mean, that was a behemoth piece of
yeah,
software for the machines of the
yeah.
time.
And then Kodi, well, XBMC
Mm,
came along, and now that's Kodi. So we
fantastic
can
piece of
we can
software.
handle. Yeah, it is. We can handle media software now, I guess, on our modern Celerons.
Modern Celerons. Yeah,
Yes, sir. Oh yeah, did you speaking of Celerons, did you see Intel is dropping the I now?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposedly less confusing now because
How?
they. Uh, you tell me, we'll both know because
Listen, man, I never knew what the I was, but it didn't really matter. Because the thing that mattered was the number. And I guess now they're just doing the number. There's 3, 5, and 7 and 9. Still, I
yeah.
don't think they're changing that. But how does that make any sense? Other than number bigger. That's literally the only thing. And
Seems
and for
like
some reason they enjoy odd numbers.
the one thing that they are doing also is, instead of calling the GIMPed processors, Pentiums and Celerons. They're going to be
Oh, is there going to be
included.
I1 now or a 1?
Well, those are going to be because it's going to be like the i5 and then the i5 Max or i5 Ultra or something like
Oh, you're
that.
kidding. How
Yeah.
is
Oh,
that
you
in
betcha.
any way better?
So if you get the i5, you're getting a Pentium, what used to be the Pentium, or the i3, you're getting the Pentium. And then if you get the i3, don't quote
They
me,
did it again.
it's some word like Ultra or something like that. Something just
Dude, they scooted the entire market down
yeah,
again. Dude, Pentium used to be what you wanted.
right.
The Pentium 2 with MMX technology, like that was top of the heap. And now if you go out and buy a Pentium, you're getting the trash, man. Like that's a $300 laptop and that thing is probably made fully of plastic that will break in the next 30 days.
I've got one.
Like, whoa.
One of the HPs I take on the road's got the Pentium and it's quad core. And what it seems to me, it feels like a gimped i5 because it's anything with quad cores and 8 gig of RAM should have virtualization technology built in, and it
Oh, it doesn't.
absolutely does not. No, I don't even think I could run Docker on it. So
You
uh,
could run Docker. Docker's not virtualization. Oh, well, unless you're
I'm
on Windows, in which case it is.
I don't know if it. I always assumed it needed that to
Nope.
share kernel space with user space. I don't know. Whatever.
Not in Linux. No.
Okay.
Yeah. So feel
Um,
free, man. Yeah, just throw Docker on there. Have some fun. Run all the stuff.
but KVMs and VMware and
Yeah, no gnome
VirtualBox
boxes.
is a no go.
None of
So
that. But
that's
in Windows, if you're trying to run Docker, you will end up running it in a VM because you have to run it through WSL2, which is a Linux VM. So
oh, that's just a lot of
on Windows,
nonsense.
it is virtualized, and you would not be able to do it with that Pentium if it doesn't support virtualization. But
No,
oddly
there you
enough, you
go.
can do it on a Mac.
But no, you're not going to know that you've got anything bad now because it's going to have basically the same label.
Yeah, yeah. But
It
that's
just
what I
won't
mean.
have the
Like that's how
ultra
they
at the
got away
end.
with selling people Pentiums. That's how they got away with that those first few generations of Pentium. People thought they were buying something good, and they weren't. And then with the i3, i5, whatever, if they're going to change that up, man, they're doing it again. Where the i3 was just a less cored version of the i5, but basically the same chips inside, and they're going to change that now.
So I'm
So
looking at an
you could
Ars Technica article right here, and it
okay,
says it's going
clarify
to
this
be
for me.
yeah,
I have a
it's
lot
going to
of hate
be
now.
the the good ones. The good ones are going to be called the Core Ultra 5, the Core Ultra 7, and the Core Ultra 9.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, so which ones are the trash ones?
So it's just the Core 5 and the Core
Oh,
7 and the Core 9.
so they didn't clarify anything. Taking
No,
the I away doesn't do anything
it
to clarify
obfuscates,
anything.
if you ask me, the fact that you're getting a piece of
Yes,
junk processor.
it does because it said 5 and 5 used to be good. Well, I mean,
Yeah, that was
presumably 5 is still good, but apparently it may or may not be. So, they're following Apple, dude. The Max and the Ultra and the Pro and the whatever. Dude, this is some Apple copycat.
and it's that they're doing something with the numbering too,
I
but
can't wait until they come out with like a Core M so they can be like, yeah, it's a M just like Apple.
yeah,
They'll be that's a
this is all
Core M3. It's one more than Apple has.
it's yeah. Yeah, they did away with the 3 altogether, it looks like. It's just going to be 5, 7 and 9.
See what I okay, all
So,
right. Well that's slightly less bad, but what I said they were doing to the 3, they're doing to the 5, which is
yeah.
not cool because you can buy a Core and I want to say but it's not. But Core 5 and it still be trash.
Yep.
Huh.
So, there you have it.
Okay.
Uh
Yeah, there I won't have it because I'll just buy
no,
AMD.
AMD,
Yep.
Ryzen. I
I
think
don't know that AMD is playing those shenanigans. Are their tiers any more intelligible? Nah, not really. But they're not playing these. Well, you can get a Ryzen 5, but it's actually just a Pentium.
At least they
Mm.
have the decency to call it something else, instead of it's either a Ryzen 7 or a Ryzen 9. Um, what is their like lower tiered
3. They have
processor?
a 3. I mean,
Do they?
they pulled an Intel. They copied Intel with the 3, 5, 7, and
Yeah.
9 thing. But I don't know of they still call their lower tier Athlon.
Oh, okay.
There's
So
still
that's what I was.
Athlons out there.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So
that's
that's
unfortunate. They did the same thing, right? Like where Pentium used to be the top tier, so did Athlon. Athlon used to be what you wanted. Athlon was a thing that was mopping Intel up back in what 2004, 2002, something like that. When Intel was like, "Oh God, we better innovate," and then I mean they did, and they won. But now, I think the Steam survey says more people using Ryzen to game than Intel. Interesting.
yeah, it's very interesting. But like I said, that's a completely different word. That's a completely different name. You know you're getting a different processor
Yeah.
if you're getting an Athlon versus a
Oh, right.
Ryzen.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Exactly. But
they're not.
until AMD decides to do what Intel's doing and obfuscate the market again,
Let's hope
and
that doesn't happen. But yeah, this is
I
just
will be very unhappy with AMD, but they're really the only choice I have. So
they are.
I can't run too far. Otherwise, I'll run right into a Mac.
Oh God help us. Welcome to MacCast. MacCast. Boy, that
You
doesn't even
better
come out of the
believe it.
mouth.
You better believe it.
Oh, we better get out of here. Um, Let us know what you think. Show at linuxotc.org. Hit us up on the socials. What few of them we have. What few of them are
I hope I
left.
ruffled some feathers today.
Yeah, let us know what you think of this Red Hat thing.
And the
And the
Fedora
Fedora
telemetry thing.
thing, the telemetry thing.
That's the thing. I mean, I feel like most of the community agrees with me on the Red Hat thing. I feel like none of the community agrees with me on the
I
Fedora
think you might
thing.
be surprised. I think that people want
16%.
I want to believe that more people, when they actually sit down and think of it, they're like, well, yeah, you know what? I want these people to know that I'm using this thing so that they'll make it better, you know,
Yeah,
because
that's how I see it.
so
I mean, I'll opt in. If you opt me, if it's an opt in, I'll opt in. That's fine. I would just rather not think about it, and you
yeah,
just take it.
there you go. There you have it, kids. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Till then, I've been Bill.
I've been Leo. Oh, I said it. No,
Yeah, you did. And now I'm going to clip it and
no.
copy it and use it again.